Hi, welcome to Trail Buddy. I'm Mark. So today we're going to go over our next progression in our build. We're going to cover the direction we're going and why we picked that direction. So start with the motor. So the motor that was in this roller is just roach. So the H motor that came with it, the center cases are cracked. It's missing the flywheel. And there's a whole thing between trying to find the right flywheel with the Hitachi points and all that stuff. So we're going to keep it. We're going to keep it with the box. It was the motor that came with it. And we're going to keep it with the bike if someone in the future ever wants to go rebuild it. But for us, for what we have, because if you get a project, the big thing you want to do is you want to figure out, like when we have customers come in and they talk about building and the excitement of starting a project, I think the first thing we ask them is what do you want to do with it? Do you want to what's your goal? Is your goal to make a total restoration? Is your goal to make like a fun yard bike that you can go cruise around with? Is your goal to make like a crazy, resto mod or just total all out custom bike? So those are things you need to ask yourself, like what do you want in the end? So for us, and the direction we're going to pick with this guy is, there's a lot of really good, cool parts with this. We're going to try to save the paint. I worked for hours peeling off all of this stickum. And the reason we're going to keep this paint is there's really only a couple funky spots to where it's rusty. And it really doesn't have a ton of sudden fade. Typically, when you take these decals off, you can really, you can barely see right here. But for this one, all the parts and pieces are pretty good. The swing arm's good. The paint's all good on the swing arm. Our shocks aren't all blown out or bent. Our front fork uppers are really good. We're gonna put our cartridges in that, and our motor is really the toastiest part. We'll probably go with an aftermarket key switch. I'll get into that in a little bit. But so we're gonna go with a 125. Semi-automatic electric start. So I think that'll give us opportunity to show how to hook up an electric start switch. And we're going to land on our simple harness. So now there's 3 harnesses you can pick from. And that's really determined on what you have. And that's kind of why we're taking an assessment of the stuff that we have and where we want to go and what do we want in the end. So for us, our goal is to make a fun resto mod. So we're going to try to restore as much as we can. And we're going to try to keep our original controls. We're going to try to keep our original headlight bucket. Our speedometers are good. Our handlebars are pretty roached, but we're going to put a regular OEM high-low beam. We're going to have the speedometer, the headlight bucket, all that stuff's pretty decent. Our main harness, or a harness that came with this one, was all chewed up with mice. So we're not going to do the tandem harness, which would be another option. So that's your best option if you're just going to put in an aftermarket engine in a running, working bike. Let's say you've got a bike, but you want more power, and all your parts and pieces are there, your keys, everything's working. That is why you would pick the tandem harness. So the tandem harness is what it sounds like. It lays in line or tandem with your original. So you'd keep your original harness in here, and the tandem part runs all the components for the 12-volt wire harness. So that one can plug into your CDI, your voltage regulator, your coil, like all the new stuff. So that runs in tandem with the harness that's in it. Now, the third option and the most, let's say, custom would be our full-blown wire harness kit. That comes, now we would choose that one if we're going to put our own handlebar controllers on it. We're going to put an aftermarket headlight. None of our parts and pieces are good, and we're not necessarily trying to keep it in the look of a restored bike, but we're just going to go out, we don't care. We're going to put like our own twist throttle on it. We're going to put whatever controls on it that we want with our handlebar controller assemblies and or anything else. So you would really go with that other route if you're going to do, again, a different headlight, different speedometer, different taillights, different controllers. That's why you would pick that one. But we're going to go with our simple harness because it'll plug into, if we wanted to, our headlight, all of our parts and pieces. That's exactly what we're going to pick with this one. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna go grab our parts and pieces. We're gonna go shopping. We're in Trail Buddy, so we're gonna go pick our parts. We're gonna pull out our engine. We're gonna pull out a harness. We're gonna get the engine on their stand, and we're gonna start laying all our parts and pieces out so we can talk a little bit about making a list. So when we go over there and get parts, it would be typically the spot that you would start buying parts and paying for shipping. So the best thing to do is to get all your parts laid out and make a list and try to break it up into segments because it makes it easier to digest and handle. So you take like your engine, like what parts and pieces do I need for my engine and what attaches to the engine, right? So like my exhaust, my foot peg assembly, don't forget that because you're gonna have to go with an aftermarket foot peg assembly because the transmission's wider. That's the easiest thing to do. Some guys will get in it and they'll chop up their original foot pegs and widen them out and re-weld, but you gotta have the skills and you gotta have the tools to do that. So we're gonna get a foot peg assembly and set our exhaust. This exhaust is pretty spoiled, so we'll probably go with an aftermarket one, but that's where you want to make your list. So what that does is it helps save you on shipping like quite a bit because we try our hardest not to make any money on shipping, but shipping is just the cost of everything lately has been going up, but the cost of shipping, if you can try to get as many parts and pieces as you can in one order, obviously that's going to save you money. So we'll go over that a bit in terms of how to make that list and identify the parts and pieces you need. So from here, we're gonna go shopping, and we're gonna go pull parts. Follow me. All of our orders that just came in. All right, we'll grab our cart. All right, we got a couple engines here set aside, so we are gonna get our TD012 125 semi-automatic electric start. Here's this guy. Now we'll pull our electrical and all of our little parts and pieces. Grab a goodie bag. It's kind of like Christmas. Alright, so start here. We are going to need an unsealed headlight. For our wire harness, we're going to go with our simple main harness. We're going to have to come up with our own electric start solution. Let's see. Next, we've got a rear brake switch. I know that one was messed up when we took that out. So we've got rectifier, CDI. These will all come with the engine. We've got a coil. Let's see, we've got electric start switch. We're going to need a new rubber grommet for the wire harness to go through because the mices ate all that up. And our 12-volt lock assembly. So we'll make one run with this and we'll come back and get some more and we'll have our parts and pieces on the lift. And we're back. Look at all the parts and pieces we got. So we've got every part and piece pulled for the most part. I know there's something we're gonna miss, but that's where it's important to sit and fester and think about your project and really write your list, because it's easier for us because we can go right over there and start pulling parts and you know, we just gotta walk over. So what I'm trying to save everybody is the shipping cost of forgetting, like, let's just say a gasket kit or like a rear sprocket or something, right? So if you go through, you segment your bike, break it into parts and pieces, or at least areas, that'll help you remember what you got, and then you can review what you have, and you can go from there. But yeah, we've got IRC tires, we've got new chains, sprockets, we've got our 4 cartridge kit, new aftermarket seat with the right seat pan on the bottom for the latch, and a whole box full of goodies. So I think what we'll do is we'll start breaking, opening up our box for our motor. We'll get our motor on our Trail Buddy bike building stand. and we'll go over the parts and pieces that kind of come with this 125 semi-automatic, and we'll test fit our frame. So we'll go to work. Alright, so we opened up our motor, and we'll just briefly go through the parts and pieces. I'm not crazy about unboxing videos, but we can at least kind of show you what we got. So as you open it up, we're going to get our CDI, and we're going to put this off to the side so we don't lose it. So the motor will come with your CDI, your voltage regulator, your coil, your carburetor, your intake, the air filter. It'll come with the shifter, the kickstarter, and the cover. So just make sure you don't double buy, right? So don't go buy a CDI, don't go CDI over here, don't go buy a voltage regulator because that'll come with a motor. And you're gonna get, like I said, the kickstarter and the shift lever. So we'll put these in our little goodie box over here so we don't lose them. We've got our gasket kit for our intake and our carburetor. Foam. And here is our air filter. So these do not come pre-oiled, so it's very important to at least pull the second stage off. I like to put it in a baggie, spray the uni oil, foam oil filter in there, and then just move it around. We'll get into that as we put it on. Put it back in my bucket. And we have our carburetor and our intake. Get this guy open. So things to look at when you're comparing our motors to other people you see online is everything comes together. We've got our choke on the left side, so it's not going to be on the right side. You're not going to be burning your hand by the exhaust. Comes with all the overflow tubes. It's loose fit, so it's just here to keep it together. Put that in the box. We've got our coil. And we have our electric start relay with our little wiring diagram of how to wire it up. And what we'll do for this one, with the harness that we're using, is we'll make our own custom wire harness for the switch. And we'll go into detail on that in a little bit. But here is the motor. So I'm going to set this on the floor and then pick the motor up out of it. Not light. Real careful with it. So depending on shipping, it could be covered in oil. It does come with a breather plug on it here for your crankcase breather. So when you go to install it, reminder, take that off. It has the actual breather tube here. And we've got our connections. We won't use this guy because this one is if you had a bike that had a bunch of shift pattern indicators. So this is that. And we'll just inspect it first. We'll make sure everything looks good. Comes with our electric start lead over here. We'll leave that all wrapped up. But we're gonna get this on the stand. We'll get this out of the way. Double check, make sure we ain't got any loose bolts running around the bottom of our box. And we're good to go. Alright, so I'm going to go grab some tools for this and we'll hook this up. Alright, here we go. Alright, so we've got our oil plug on, so I don't feel too bad about putting it upside down. And we're not going to run it in quite some time, so the oil will have a chance to get back down. So the bike building stand, which direction is front, right? So leaning back is back towards the back of the bike. So for us, how I got the motor laid out, we're gonna put it on like so. Tip her up. There we go. Here is our engine. And I am going to go ahead and put our breather tube for our crankcase breather right away so I don't forget. And I think what we'll do is we'll test fit the frame and we'll make sure there's nothing bent. And we're going to try to keep our paint, but this is the time, let's say, it's always better to pre-fit stuff before you send it out for sandblast and paint, because the worst thing you'd want to have happen is you go to put your frame on and you realize it's missing one of the welded in spacers, or there's a crack, or it's bent in, depending on how you get your bike. I know ours is probably going to be pretty good because we got ours as a roller state and we took the engine out of it. All right, so I'm gonna, there we go. I'm gonna run my line, my breather line out down through the bottom. I'm gonna go grab our frame, we're gonna just set it on, we're gonna see how it fits. So just taking the screwdriver, trying to line it, and it looks like we are golden. Everything fits. Our spacers are still intact. This bolt actually goes in through this way. And we're golden. Now some other motors you'll find online, if you don't get the ones through us, is they'll have like, some of them, especially when you get into the 140s, they'll have like a heavy gusset right here, and it'll get away. It would crash and hit all these parts up front. So that was something that would happen quite a bit. I don't know, maybe back in the 2000s or so. I'm gonna turn this around. That way we got good working area here. We can get our, I've got that wheel chuck welded into our table, so we can put our front end in and out, and we can test fit a lot of our stuff. Make sure everything's working good, and we'll go from there. But this is the right orientation for putting it on your stand. You know, leaning to the back of the bike. What that is that kind of gets the center of mass right over the center. And the stand is really just built for the weight of the motorcycle itself. I wouldn't recommend like jumping on it, getting on it, so just hold back your excitement. You're just going to wait a little bit until you actually get it on the tires. But the cool thing about the stand is once we get all of our parts and pieces in here, when I have this adjusted out quite a ways up, there's a jam nut or a little set screw right here. We just loosen that up and fall right on the tires. So this is what we got. We'll do a walk around, we'll take a look, and you guys check it out.